I think lastly to Emma for the last speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Tareen. So now our last speaker of the session today is Mauricio Reyes, who is an associate professor at the University of Bern, and he will be presenting this paper on human alignment, fairness, and performance.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you, everyone, to the organizer for the kind invitation. So yeah, this is primarily the work of Hao Tse Luo. He's our PhD student in the lab. This is a collaboration also with KAICO and also the university hospital in Sechpital, where we also run all our clinical evaluations. So this study, I would say, originated from the questions more on the explainable AI. I can echo, I think already it's been discussed, the concepts of shortcut learning. So here you see on the left one of the key papers on the topic, where you see models that can fail, let's say, at finding a cow at the beach. The cow doesn't exist anymore to the AI model because there's no green in that image anymore. And then on the right, you see examples for COVID, where some models might not even look at the lungs to perform inference. So in this journey of finding or understanding models, one of the paradigms here is something called human AI alignment, where the idea is to align the model to the way humans now analyze the data. Now, before the era of deep learning, we were all in the business of creating or handcrafting features, and it would be even very hard to model the features used by clinicians. So as a proxy to that, another way to perform alignment is to look at attention. So that's something that then connects back to explainable AI as one of the ways we use to understand what models are doing or what are they attending to. So in this context, we were looking at this study from the colleagues, so Holzinger et al. In Germany, where they had these sort of three ways training. So you have this blue, this white, and this red models. And I want you to look at the middle one first. So this is the so-called, let's say, white model, where the model, it's basically is your vanilla model that is not guided, there's no alignment. It's just the way we do it, right? We have a task, outputs, and we have our losses to train that model. And you can see that there is an amount of overlap in the attention between what the model is using in the image space and what the experts use as attention. Now, if we go up to the blue model, we see now this model during the training is aligned. And you can see that the amount of alignment goes up from 27 to 60 here. And this is basically promoting the model to create explanations that align with those from the expert. Now, things get puzzling when we look at the red model where they actually misalign and they did the opposite. And you can see the explanation here. The model basically does not look at the area that the humans look at. And you can see how it went down the attention, the alignment of the two attentions. However, the performance is still very good. So then we go back to the discussions about shortcut learning, spurious correlations. So we were looking at this, and in the clinics, although I think here I want to echo the words from Leo at the beginning on sometimes we overemphasize on specific performance metrics. But in the clinics, many times performance is not the most important metric, since you want to have an AI model that is trustworthy, that is robust, that it just works every single day. So we started looking at other so-called dimensions. So through the prism of alignment, we started looking at one of the dimensions, so led to this study, fairness. So we wanted to look at the interplay between performance and fairness and to see how human AI alignment would shift those metrics. So for a model to align, to be aligned, we have this sort of two tasks in one. You have the classical label alignment where you are doing the classical classification training, right? And then you have the attention alignment, as we saw before, where the model is sort of promoted, incentivized to align to the attention of the humans. Now, the main research question here in this study was how would be this interplay between fairness and performance and the amounts of human AI alignment. So we look at the different data sets and we set up our experiment using training sets from these four data sets. So for a total of around 627K samples, and then test set, another data sets that are basically not seen before. And of course, on both, we have then subgroups to perform the fairness analysis. So we have female, male, and then age groups. So then we had sub questions I want to show here is while performing the alignment, we wanted to look at different metrics. So this first block is F1, AUC, and other metrics. We had a total of 4 metrics. We wanted to see the gaps on those metrics for the 2 groups. So we had male, females, and age groups. Then we wanted to investigate what happens with the amount of alignment, whether there is a linear relationship and whether there are differences as we sort of scale up the amount of alignment. Then we went down into maybe these findings might change or might shift as a function of the number of cases that we use. So this is then led to what happens at low data regime. And then similarly, or inspired by Holzinger et al., we also look at what happens with misalignment. So here was completely randomization of the attention, as you can see here, with different shapes and locations to see what is there, then how does this interplay change as a function of this misalignment. In terms of architecture, we went for something very vanilla, very standard these days, using a vision language model, using a pre-trained text encoder and a trainable image encoder, using classical cross attention, and then having the 2 tasks as mentioned before, one for label alignment and the second one for attention alignment. And here you see examples of the AI-based attention aligned to the human attention. Now, for the human attentions, the data sets, we were able to have bounding boxes or contours that basically define the attention areas. In order to avoid models to be optimized towards a naive solution, we also added a false positive suppression to force the model not to always sort of have an attention that says, well, I just look at the whole lungs and I can sort of optimize this. So then we went into training models with different amounts of alignment. And I want to show you these plots are very classical, where you see on the horizontal axis fairness gap, where lower is better. And then on the vertical axis, you see accuracy or performance. So this is one of the 4 metrics. And then you see sort of the spread of the 2 combinations, right? The two values. This is basically the white sort of model from going back to Holzinger's. This is the model that there's no alignment. As we start introducing alignment, we start seeing improvements in actually both dimensions of fairness and accuracy, 25, 50% alignment, 75%. Now, it was really interesting when we increased it all the way to 100 that we saw a reduction, a worsening in both units. Still better than, let's say, your non-aligned or non-guided model, but it was lower than that 75. And this leads to very interesting questions about, there seems to be a sort of a, optimal, or there's a balance, right, between how we guide models and how much we let models discover the information in the data. And I think this goes back to, we've been training models for clinics, so it's from data to AI. And with these findings, one path is how do we actually generate from AI, we generate new data? Like how do we learn, right, from models in a similar way as like how do we learn the new AlphaGo movement? And I think that's where we are now, is understanding what is the equilibrium or balance in this alignment, and how can we use those mechanisms to start learning from models. Just to show you, the findings were similar for the age group, for the sex group, across all 4 metrics we investigated, showing that it's a consistent finding, basically. These plots show what happens in the low data regime. So we see, as we reduce the amount of data, the benefit still exists on using the alignment. Then finally, I want to show you what happens with randomization. So here you see the 3 situations: no alignment in blue, the 100% alignment as a reference, and then you see in green the randomized alignment. So although we improve fairness, there's a trade-off with the performance. Kind of expected that by randomization, we might hurt the model, but at the same time, this fairness gap is something we are analyzing. One hypothesis is that there is some kind of decorrelation going on by randomization that then favors the fairness gap metric. And the same happened across metrics as well. So conclusions, we see the improvements, the benefits of the human AI alignment in these metrics. There seems to be an optimal point of this alignment, and these findings do exist across data regimes. And the misalignment could be one way, of course, of improving fairness at the sacrifice of performance. I mentioned these dimensions. What we've been doing in the after MICCAI was to check other dimensions. So one of them, as you can see here, is robustness. We also saw benefits in model calibration and other dimensions that go hand in hand with fairness. Now, things that are really interesting is the way we do the guidance. So we do guidance at the pixel level, but we can also do guidance when we are now working with multimodal models. So gaze information is also being used in the past as an inductive bias, also as a way of alignment. But we understand that this amount of alignment, it's not well understood. How much should be done at which point during the training also should be done. I think this is very interesting ways for us to understand much better how models learn the information. Finally, also, we need to, for a practical point of view, we need to improve the way we inject this information. So when I showed you before, we have that 25% alignment, that's still a lot of data actually to curate. So in clinical practice, we need to then maybe go back to the domains of active learning or reinforced learning with human in the loop paradigms to start imagining how do we operationalize these findings such that clinicians can execute them in a time-effective manner. And with that, I finalize my presentation. Very happy to answer any questions, comments you might have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mauricio, and good to see you again after MICCAI. I think at the moment there's not too many questions, but they should maybe pop in, I guess, because I think we're a little bit over time, so we'll be going into the panel discussion, but we really appreciate you coming and giving the talk today. Thank you.
Thank you.